Hello everybody and welcome back to Europa, where apparently the main menu music keeps playing when you first load it up. Let me get that turned down. The main menu music is very loud compared to the rest of the music, and I'd really like it if Paradox would change that. But alas, I'll just have to remember to turn it back up when we get to the regular music. So that'll just have to be a thing for now. Now, we were in the process of going through these menus last episode, and this is a production menu here. So that's interesting. We can see that this is producing tools or something? I'm not entirely sure. Oh, that's indicating that it has the goods versus doesn't have the goods, I think. Okay, well, that's fine for now. So that's our buildings. These are our goods here. So this feels very Victoria-like. Excellent. And at this point, we've got our food here as well. Okay. And we've got our society out over here. So that's our culture, religion, and people. That seems simple enough. Very Victoria-esque as well. Our diplomacy over here, we'll get into that later on. Our military, again, I never found a land force limit, which is interesting. Very interesting indeed. And then there are advances down over here. Now, we were, I believe, starting to go through some of the stuff up over here. So, yeah, that's the jihad there. Non-integrated provinces, we're working on it. We have pops with some needs. Missing some goods. Beer, horses, wine, rice. Okay, sure. There's some rebel movements. This is probably in part because we're missing some goods. Unmarried adult heir. So we should probably do something about that. Arrange a royal marriage? No one is willing to do this. There are no possible countries to select. Okay, so do we need to marry a lowborn then? We lose legitimacy and prestige for doing that. We could also marry a noble, but there's no valid characters available. Well, maybe there'll become some later on. That's probably the way we want to go, is marrying a noble. So we have some unprofitable buildings here. We've got this Potter's Guild, and we could subsidize it, but I don't see a reason to do that right now. So we can see that this is, if I'm reading this correctly, it is taking in clay, lumber, and tools, and it is outputting pottery. Okay, and it's unprofitable because of what? Possibly because the price of clay is too high or something along those lines. Likely what we're going to want to do is, like in Victoria, we're going to want to get like raw resources coming in. But for now, I don't really have a grasp of how this system works in Europa 5. After all, this is my first playthrough of this. We'll see how it goes. So for now, that seems okay. We have some possible diplomatic actions here. Create CB, okay, and we can declare some wars. Sure. Presumably, we would be able to go in here, and we'd be able to declare war as well. Start annexation. Are they our vassal? We're stronger than them, sure. I'm just wondering, are they our vassal? They have subjects, apparently, but they are our vassal. Okay. That's interesting. So these guys are our vassal. That's good to know. I want to go into... Hi, pause menu. I want to go into the diplomatic map mode here. Okay. This is a very subtly different color to my colorblind eyes, but it is different. So these guys are not our vassal. These guys, I believe, are not our vassal. These would be our vassal, correct? Am I reading this correctly? Maybe not... No, I am reading it correctly. They are our vassal. Okay, cool. So I think we might be starting to get close to unpausing, so that's, you know, exciting. We're going to go back to the terrain map mode here, although we might sit on... What's the difference exactly between political and terrain map mode? Is it just based on, like, when you're zoomed in, how it colors it? Yeah, so political map mode stays like this when you're zoomed in, and terrain map mode colors it with the default colors. Okay, that's not much of a difference. We need to go through our resources at this moment. So, what do we got up here? Ethiopian, oh, okay, this is the estate power. Or rather, the estate loyalty. Satisfaction is, I guess, the term in this. So this is our nobles, this is our clergy, this is our merchants, this is our peasants, and this is our tribes. Okay? If they're putting that on the top bar, that must be much, much more impactful in Europa 5. So that's good to know. And then when we go through here, that's our ducats. Not surprising. That's interesting. Okay, so our crown power is pretty decent, but it could definitely be a little higher. Can we revoke crownland? Or anything along those lines? These are our estate privileges that are already in here. We can add a new one, or we can bribe the estate. Interesting. As a temporary improvement. It doesn't change the base. It just gives us a bump temporarily, and then that'll drain to whatever direction it's supposed to go. Okay, cool. So that's fine. Of course, there's our ducats here, and we want to spend our ducats on getting more ducats. That's going to be a thing that we're going to do very soon. This is our stability. Our stability is very slightly positive. That's great. This is our population. Our population is positive. Sure, that sounds good. This is our legitimacy. Our legitimacy, very slightly positive. I like it. This is our prestige, which is very slightly negative. Army maintenance, minus 0.02. That's interesting. Wait, so army maintenance doesn't cost us gold? It only costs us prestige. As does fort maintenance. That's very, very interesting. Fort maintenance does cost us gold. Oh, no, there it is right there. Army maintenance. I am dumb. Okay, so we need to pay to equip, feed, and clothe our armies, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But apparently that also affects our prestige. That's good to know. So our prestige could be brought up. Now, our army maintenance is at minimum right now. We can bring that back up to here, and that puts us back to being positive on the prestige just barely. Noted. So that's based on how cut our taxes are, or rather, how cut our maintenance is. So if we have our fort maintenance all the way up here, yeah, 0.03, 0.01. Good to know. That's fantastic. So this is our diplomacy. We have 5 diplomats, and we're gaining 0.26 per month. But we have a maximum of 4.23 diplomats. But a diplomatic capacity of 6.34. Interesting. So presumably this is things that we can send to other nations, right? Understandable. Our war exhaustion is 0. This is probably the standard war exhaustion mechanic. That's fine. And then this is our manpower. 606, we're only gaining +2 monthly manpower. 10 is our monthly manpower, and 7 is our army maintenance. So ongoing maintenance for the manpower. Okay. So that'll be reflecting like churn, right? As people age out and we have to replace them. That's understood. That's a very different setup than it was in Europa 4. In Europa 4, you paid for the initial recruitment, and you pay for losses that you take in manpower. You do not pay monthly maintenance. So that goes a long ways to explaining to me why they decided to not give a land force limit, because your manpower generation is going to be heavily reduced by having a larger army. And that makes sense, I think. I don't hate that. And then this up here is our current research, which is absolutely fine. We are researching something, presumably. Yeah, we're researching organized religion. That's right. So then we were going to go down this way eventually. Okay, that's fine for now. So what we need to do at this moment is we need to look to get some constructions going. So these constructions are going to need a couple of things. We need to get our finances turned around. No doubt about that. We can start creating a CB out over here. I'm assuming we don't have a war goal here. No CB. Yeah, so as we can see, without a CB, this is going to cost us 25 stability. It's going to cost us 2 war exhaustion, and it's going to cost us a bunch of antagonism. Is this aggressive expansion? This is aggressive expansion. Okay, so that's absolutely fine. No problem there. We are going to want to start getting a CB out over here then. So slave raiding is a humiliate CB, with the war goal being to humiliate our rival. We lack the 20 espionage required. Okay, so we're going to need to build a spy network first. So that works like in Europa 4. Gotcha. So that's going to be minus 0.1 monthly diplomats. That's a pretty cheap cost, to be honest. Although it's a cost of 1 to establish, and then minus 0.1 to maintain. Okay, so we'll get that going. That seems good. So that's very much like in Europa 4 there. Cool. So now the question is, are we ready to unpause? Well, not quite. First, we need to work on construction. Now, I'm not seeing a macro builder immediately, and that's understood. So we're going to hop in here to the production tab. Okay. So if we were to want to build here, this is the current buildings in this location. Sure. But if we look up here, we can see that in the Axum market, we need 0.98 beer. Okay, so that's indicating that we need to produce 1 additional beer in the Axum market. So where is the Axum market? Here's the markets here, and this is the Axum market up over this way. If we wanted to produce more beer, how would we go about doing that? Okay, so that's importing and exporting. Sure. Resource gathering and no building available for this good. So we want to do, if I can type, beer. So open buildings filtered by good. So this gives us breweries, and that's the highest profit. This gives us market village, and that's going to be profit as well. The question is, does that market village distribute the beer, or does it actually produce any? So possible production methods do include producing half of a beer. For the brewery, this would be producing much more beer. So the cost of this is what? 34 ducats. Okay. So we build a brewery, and that seems fine. So that's now built there. That will get us 1 additional beer in the Axum market, which should deal with that. Next up, we would need horses. So in the Axum market, let's look for horses. I'm sure there's a more efficient way to do this, but for now, this will do. Okay, so we can put in a stud farm over here, and that will produce 1 horses overall. It maintains 1.5 wheat and 0.3 horses. So the net production of this is 0.7 horses, I believe. Okay. Also, I need to remember to turn the music back up. There we go. So that's fine. And at this point, this stud farm is potentially something that we can build here. No, we cannot build this. So we're going to need to import horses then. Okay. We can import horses from, like... Oh, that's trippy. Okay, sure. We can import horses from the Adon market, theoretically. But that's fine for now. So we're short on horses. We don't seem to be able to produce those at this time. Wine is the next thing that the Axum market is short of. So wine we can look into. What do we got going on here? So let's look at our buildings. We can build a winery, and this is going to produce how much wine? 1 wine? Okay, so it seems like everything mostly produces 1 as its base amount. That should be absolutely fine, and I'd like to build one here. Now, I don't think we actually built that brewery, to be clear. And actually, I want to build this here. There we go. So that's being built, and let's go back in here, go to the beer, and we need to actually build this, because I didn't do that previously. I clicked on this, but that doesn't start the construction. We need to get a level of brewery going in here. So that'll be something like that. We're building just the winery at this moment. Interesting. Let's check in on that. So yeah, we're only building 1 thing at a time. That's good to know. So with that in mind, we are going to need to check in on rice. Can we get rice? Can we grow that ourselves? Let's see here. No building available for this good. So we would have to import rice from another market. Okay, so how much rice do we want to import? Well, we have no trade capacity here, and so that's not going to be a thing. We can't do that at this moment. We could potentially replace our rice, but that's fine. So if we go into production here, and this is our buildings, if we sort this by the maximum profit... Okay. This is not very sorted. The Saltpeter Guild, or the Distillers Guild here, is making a whole lot more money than this Carpenter's Guild, and yet it's being listed like this. Okay. I'm not entirely sure why that's the case, but that's understood for now. So for the moment, we are going to be building this winery. I would like to change the order of this construction. How would we do that? We could cancel the construction of the winery in Axum, and that would give us a brewery for sure. And then we would want to have the winery in Axum once again. So that would be right here. And we would put that behind the brewery, like that. Okay, so that seems relatively good. Now we can look at buildings that are unprofitable. So we've got this brewery and winery going in. They are not built yet, so I don't know why that's saying that they're unprofitable. But we can look at this glass guild, and we can see that our glass guild here is currently unprofitable. Due to what? We can subsidize it, or it will lay workers off, much like in Victoria. That's absolutely fine. But the real question is, why is this unprofitable? Presumably, this is because... that's interesting. The one glass from Glass Guild sells for 148 ducats, while the required goods cost 1.14. I don't know why I said it like that, but that looks to me like a 0.34 profit. Maybe we need to tick it. We can give that a go, and let's hop over into the default map mode, and I think we're going to unpause this. This should be interesting. We're going to immediately start working up over here, although we maybe should also start building a spy network up over here, since we can do that, and building a spy network up over here. And building a spy network up over here. I'm not going to spend any more of our... Okay, this is getting very loud. The music is not very equalized. I'm going to be honest about that. Okay, so let's go ahead and unpause this. What I'm interested in seeing here is, how does the time work? Because, okay, this is getting louder and louder. There we go. So, at this moment, we can see it's 8 o'clock on 1 April 1337. Now, this is a much earlier start date than Victoria, or rather than Hearts of Iron. Wow. Apparently, I can't name this game correctly, than Europa previously was at. Remember, Europa used to start in 1444, so it's currently like 110 years earlier, a little under 110 years. But the most intriguing thing here is at 8 o'clock. What's the default tick? We're about to find out. So let's unpause this thing. Hourly ticks. Okay, good to know. So hourly ticks are absolutely fine, and we're just going to continue to work on this. So it's 2 April, 3 April, and Yemen declared us to be their rival. They will be our eternal enemies. Okay, so right-clicking this does not, in fact, dismiss all. Okay, noted. We'll keep an eye on that then. So that does not work quite like Victoria. That's understood. So I want to check in on the progress of these spy networks. This is a monthly tick. Okay, cool. So that's fine. This means that day ticks are going to be maybe slightly slower, but that's okay. We're probably going to be running on speed 4 once we're a little bit more accustomed to how this is working. So that seems absolutely fine. So we're working on making this brewery, and I would like to start annexation down over here eventually. So we're going to need to improve opinions with these. Okay. Understood. So we're going to start improving opinion out over here. Plus 12 yearly. Okay, that's going to take a while. So that's understood. Wait, we became a great power? That's surprising. I didn't expect that. We have disloyal subjects. That's these guys out over here. Not particularly surprising, that. So that's absolutely fine for right now. We can have 4 more countries as our rival, and we should definitely rival Yemen. 100% we rival Yemen. They rivaled us, so that looks absolutely fine. They're also weaker than us, so that looks good too. So we're working on getting that brewery completed, and what is this? We can be targeted in an independence movement. Okay, so that's absolutely noted. Cool. So we can see we're making good progress on our integrations out over here. Our construction is improving, and everything is looking pretty decent as of right now. We're only growing by 203 population right now. Interesting. Mogadishu has rivaled us. Okay, so we should probably rival them back if we can. We can't. Exciting. Okay, I'm just going to come into here. I'm going to turn the music down to about 20%. Because this is very, very uneven on how loud the tracks are. They're not well normalized. Some of them get very loud and some of them get very quiet. But we'll default to this for now, and I'm sure I'll find a place for it to be eventually. Okay, let's proceed for now. We're losing 0.31 gold per month. That's not too bad. And once we finish up our constructions over here, we should be in a pretty good state there. Okay, so these are only growing by 1.23 per month. That's quite slow. So if we want to create a CB out over here, that's going to cost 9.64 stability. Interesting. So declaring a war with a CB is going to cost stability. Now, we do have rebel movements. Yep, that's to be expected. And Axum is actually short on pottery at this moment. Now, one thing I'm wondering is how are we going to get more construction ability, right? Because we're only building one construction right now. And if we look at, where do we even see our construction queue? That's an interesting question. So if we go over to our capital in Axum, up over here, we can see that we are going to be building... Okay, both of these are in the same location. I wonder if that's why it's in queue. That might be a possibility. So what we need to do right now is we need to go into here, and we need to produce more pottery. So let's go into our market here, and let's check out our pottery situation. So we can see here that if we were to build more here, this would be barely profitable. But how much pottery do we actually need? 1.12. So if we were to put this in, this would be an Axum. We already have two things constructing there. So I'm going to put this down here. 1 and 2. Yes, these are building separately. Okay, cool. So that works like Europa, not like Victoria. Good to know. I mean, this is Europa at this point, so that's probably to be expected. So we're going to get those going. That's absolutely fine. I didn't realize both of these were going into Axum, but now that I know that, that is good to know. So at this moment, we're mostly working on trying to get our gold earnings up somewhat. We also really do want to get a war started fairly soon. I wonder if the end date is the same 1821 date. It probably is. Makuria have declared us their rival. Now, I believe this is Makuria up over here. Okay, that's fine. We don't have the ability to declare them as our rivals, though. Yemen has strengthened up, which isn't terribly surprising. And I would do the same if our economy was in a better situation, but it's just not as of right now. So what we need to do at this moment is we need to get our economy a little bit more understretch, or understrained, not understrained. Stronger. There we go. Words are very difficult, apparently. So that's understood. We are losing money, and that's not shocking given our starting position. So that's all absolutely fine. So as of right now, we can see this brewery and this Potter's Guild is eventually going to be finishing. If we want to go into our economy here, I want to go into our buildings here, and we could then sort by the maximum profit level, and that would end up being slave markets. So that's not terribly surprising. Monthly enslavement. So this is pops that are going to become enslaved and essentially exported, I think. Well, not necessarily exported. But that would have an effect on our population growth, for sure, if they did get exported, I would think. We've also got this Spinners Guild, and that's interesting. The best place to build that would be in Axum, and we're already building in Axum. Axum, 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 Axum. Okay, so this is all wanting to build in Axum, and that's understood. How many building slots do we even have in Axum? Let's see. I'm sure it says here somewhere. Road builder. Interesting. That's very interesting. Okay, so that is fine. Is this like Victoria, where there's essentially no limit to the number of buildings that we can put in other than the limit to the number of buildings? Because this can go up to a building level of 8. This can go up to a building level of 1. This can go up to a building level of 8. And yeah, that probably is how that works. My main question is, so this is a burgher-owned buildings, laborer-owned buildings, cleric-owned buildings, noble-owned buildings. Interesting. Okay. So I don't think this has building slots in the traditional manner. Very interesting indeed. Well, we need to get our economy more online, but for now, it's time to put a cut in here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and next episode, we are going to definitely think about starting a war with one of these little guys up over here, and potentially expanding our army. We probably need to start doing that pretty soon, and getting some of these vassals integrated out over here. Definitely need to work on that too. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods. I also just noticed we are at 0 diplomats and it's going down at this moment. I wonder if that's causing any of this to not progress. It's possible. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Dark Horse, Ethan Feldman, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Punching the Microphone, The Lounge, STL, Spock, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.